Hey everybody, it's Mandy Ray of Ecstatic Astrology. I'm back for another forecast. This one's going to be the October eclipses all the way through November as well. We're just going to go over both months. I like to give you guys a preview of what's coming up, and also it's easier for me. It's been very busy for me. And just a short little update, I'm a musician, so I've been playing music every weekend. We have a new album out, and it's just been a lot, in addition to family, in addition to organization involvement. I'm on the board of a local theater, so, and in addition to sessions that I do every day. So it's been a whole lot. So I'm sorry I haven't been coming on as much as I normally do. I was doing every new and full moon, but I'm having to bite off bigger periods of time to give myself more time to do other things. So if you enjoy this free content, please go to my website, ecstaticastrology.com, and book a session with me. And hopefully I'll be doing some things in the future. I'm also trying to set up some webinars and things of that nature. So follow along. I really enjoy having you guys around. And I just got my hair done by Mary Jane. She's going to kill me because she curled it the day she did it. And I was going to go home and do a video, and I just didn't get to because of all the things. So here I am in braids. But Mary Jane does a lovely job. Pay no attention to my insane looking hairstyle. All right. Personal stuff aside, so let's go ahead and talk about what's going on in the stars. And I made you guys little calendars to follow along because I think that it's easier to see the overview while I'm talking about it. I do like to share the chart as well, so I may do that intermittently, but for now, we're just going to go over the general collective month, right? Okay, so here we are. Here's our calendar. Okay, let me pull myself a little bit bigger here so I can see what I'm doing. All right. So, October, we're already in the middle. We're here Friday the 20th. That's when I'm recording this. The moon is in Capricorn today. And the moon in Capricorn is already, it gets a bad rap. It's not in its favorite place. It's opposite its home sign of Cancer. Capricorn is structure and boundaries. And I always like to talk about where the moon is when I'm recording this. It is 4:15 p.m. in Birmingham, Alabama, Friday, October 20th. But there's something special about this moon in Capricorn today, and it is trine Jupiter and trine Venus right now as I'm recording this, creating a grand trine, which is auspicious. Jupiter's in Taurus, Venus is in Virgo. And we've got this really nice supportive earth trine going on, which makes us feel grounded, maybe even hopeful in the middle of eclipses. We are smack dab in the middle of eclipses. In fact, tomorrow is the exact middle of the eclipses. And you can see on this calendar, it says Moon and Pluto in Capricorn square the sun in the south node. And that is the middle. Whenever anything squares the nodes, it is the middle of the eclipse points. Squares are 90 degrees. The nodes are in Libra and Aries, both cardinal signs. Initiative. The moon tomorrow will be hitting Pluto, which is power, sometimes disempowerment, in Capricorn, and squaring those nodes, but also squaring the sun with the south node. Now, let me go ahead and show you that on a chart because I want to, right? So here's the chart for right now. We can see this really beautiful trine. Whee! That's a grand trine, everybody. And this is really nice. Venus and Jupiter are both benefics. They bring gifts. When the moon visits and makes a grand trine, we're doing good today. Okay, so maybe a little hope for us in the middle of eclipse season. And sometimes eclipse season can seem a little depressing, and it's because we're going through a great change generally during eclipse season. Sometimes it's not so much, but here we are with the moon in Capricorn, and tomorrow the moon's going to hit Pluto. This is Saturday, October 21st. So I wanted you guys to see this square here. Square to the node, the north node in Aries, and square to the south node and the sun. So this is a great segue into what are these eclipses about? Okay, well, let me go ahead and share the calendar again so you can stare at that while I talk about the eclipses. Okay, so when it comes to eclipses, the south node is what we're separating from, generally speaking. And the north node is what we are developing or heading towards. The south node is the tail of the dragon. The north node is the head of the dragon. And sometimes the north node has a voracious appetite. That's what it's said to have. So it's really, really focused on what it's doing, especially in Aries. Aries is a Mars sign. Mars is at home in Aries. And so what we get is the warrior, we get individuality, we get our own desires. That's what we're going towards. The South Node is in Libra. Libra is relationships. Libra is peace. Libra is the opposite of the warrior, right? It is the peaceful warrior, the pacifist, the balance. It is the love, the aesthetics, the beauty. That is Libra. So when the South Node is there, it's what we're separating from. What a lot of astrologers say, and for good reason, is that it can shake up relationships. This could be relationships of all kinds, friendships, romantic, business, clients. It doesn't matter. That is what the South Node in Libra is having you reevaluate. Now, the way the South Node does that is sometimes it kicks up the karmic dust, past patterns, past life patterns, depends on what you subscribe to, right? Definitely patterns that we've been involved with over our lifetimes. Now, these things do repeat. The South Node was last in Libra in 2005, every 18 years. Okay. So it's been about that. And we are back to the South Node in Libra. So if you refer back to that time, and I refer back to it greatly because this is right before I met somebody and had children with them, interestingly enough. So it's not always a separate from relationship in a way that it's like, okay, I'm going to separate from a relationship in my life. Sometimes it's with the way you do relationship, with what you desire, with what you want. The North Node is in Aries. That is where you're going, where you're headed, individuality. And so it's interesting that, for instance, my own experience is that the last time the South Node was in Libra, actually, yes, I did spend less time at home. I was going towards my career. It was a big deal for me. Aries is my 10th house of career. But then as soon as the node shifted into a different sign, I got involved in a relationship. So I just want you to have that idea that it's not always like I'm going to break up with somebody. It can be that I am reevaluating how I do relationship, or maybe I'm taking the focus off of relationship and putting it back onto me. And a lot of times that will open up new relationships for people, just focusing on yourself. Okay. So we had the solar eclipse in Libra with the South Node on October 14th. When you have it with the South Node, it definitely is a purging time. South Node purges. We purge the relationships that don't work. We purge the things that are not aesthetically pleasing to us. Venus is values. Venus rules Libra. And if there is an imbalance in our lives, there is a moment when the solar eclipse happens that we're like, we got to balance this out. Sometimes it's a revisitation to relationships you've had in the past that you haven't thought about in a while, or, you know, communities that you have been in the past and just have separated from. And it's a revisitation. Sometimes the South Node is that, a reminder. But ultimately, it is a reset, new experiences. That was the 14th. Now, there's something else we can talk about, which is today or tomorrow, really, Saturday, the 21st. The moon and Pluto will be at the halfway point between that solar eclipse and the next lunar eclipse. So the moon and Pluto tomorrow bring up this idea of what does the machine want? Capricorn is the machine. Capricorn is structure, its boundaries, its rules. And with the moon and Pluto there, Pluto was there during the pandemic, during the last crazy amount of time we've had in the last 3 or 4 years. Pluto's been there at late degrees of Capricorn. So the moon hits Pluto tomorrow. And this is a moment when we look at the rules, we look at the structure, we look at the boundaries, and we go, is this going to contribute? Is this a point that we need to change in our lives? And it's interesting on the world stage how what the South Node and maybe Venus want right now is peace, but the machine keeps driving that war, that idea of maybe money is what matters. Maybe it's the work that matters. That is the question that comes up in the middle of these two eclipses, is, what are you willing to tolerate with regards to rules and structure, especially if we're looking at the North Node being in Aries, which is ourself, our power, our willpower, our autonomy. And so this may be a breaking point tomorrow when we see that machine at work and decide this is not exactly what we want for our Libra area, right? So maybe we want peace and we aren't having any with the South Node in Libra right now. And yes, you can look at that with the conflicts going on right now as well. Okay, so that sort of takes care of the Libra stuff. Let me just back up a little bit because we've got a different lay of the land here on October 8th, which was 2 Sundays ago. Yes, Venus moved into Virgo. Virgo is the sign of healing. It's the sign of perfection. That doesn't mean Virgos are perfect. It means that that's what's desired with Virgo. Sometimes Virgo makes itself smaller. Well, here's the interesting thing. Venus went retrograde in Leo for several months, okay? Or it was stayed in Leo for several months. Leo is big energy. Virgo, the next sign is, okay, how do we take that energy and prune it down and make it worthwhile and make it work? And that's where Venus is right now. It's getting the details right. It is organization. To a certain extent, Venus in Virgo is purging, and Venus is what rules the South Node in Libra. So the South Node in Libra, all of those things happening there with that eclipse, with relationships, are also looking at Venus and Virgo, which wants this perfect healing, almost spiritual way of being. And it's, you can see, it looks like Venus is harvesting something here. That is exactly what I think of when I think of Venus and Virgo. Okay. Now, the other thing is, and Venus rules the South Node in Libra, Mars rules the North Node in Aries. And Mars is in Scorpio. Mars rules two places in astrology, Aries and Scorpio. Aries is, I'm going to go do it. I'm not thinking, I'm just running into battle. Mars in Scorpio is, I'm going to stay in battle until I kill every last one of you. Okay. And that's whenever thinking of the warrior type. We're not talking about literally. Sorry about the beeping. Someone's going in and out of my house and it's beeping. And I'm trying to tame my Mars right now in Scorpio, which will obsess over it. So maybe that beeping will stop. And that's the important thing to do, is take a deep breath with Mars and Scorpio. Scorpio will obsess over things. Scorpio wants power and control. Scorpio, especially Mars and Scorpio, has the ability to reach the masses. Scorpio rules the occult. Scorpio is the deep work. And so we may have to dig deep with Mars and Scorpio ruling the North Node and see, what are our desires? Where are we feeling empowered or disempowered? What is it exactly that we want out of life, and why are we obsessed with things? Why are we stuck on things, right? So that's Mars and Scorpio. It can get very passionate, gets very it's the swamp monster. Basically, we are walking through the swamp of our own emotions with Mars and Scorpio, and having to deal with those things maybe from the past because the South Node is in Libra. So that is something that's coming up right now as well. We now have Venus coming into Virgo into a trine with Jupiter. That happens kind of today and tomorrow, Friday and Saturday. And this is a gift. I have a little gift here. Will bring us up to date. Saturday, the 21st, tomorrow. And Venus trine Jupiter is a moment when we can look at our values. Jupiter's in Taurus. Taurus is our values. It's what makes us feel comfortable. Venus is in Virgo. Both are earth signs. And I think we tune into exactly our values and what it is that we want, especially for our future, especially for the good of our own lives. Taurus and Virgo and Capricorn, earth signs really want to protect and keep things going and keep things valuable and keep things healthy. And it's the I'm going to take care of the thing that I spent so much money on and polish it and shine it. That's Venus trine Jupiter. So polish and shine your ideas and your values during this time. And you can lean on that because the moon and Pluto are going to be square the sun in the South Node. When the sun hits the South Node, it's definitely a ping on this eclipse. So tomorrow will be a ping. And if you don't quite have a grasp on what the themes are for you. I'm going to do rising sign videos, I always do, but this moon Pluto moment square the sun at the south node will be helpful. In fact, I think the sun may be square the south node, or sun at the south node. The sun's already visited the south node. Yeah. So it'll be visiting Pluto is what it's going to be doing by square. But the south node's close enough. We're going to say the sun's still hanging out around the south node. Okay. So let's go to Monday, the 23rd. This kind of skips over moon in Aquarius, which happens Sunday. It moves in maybe later tonight, actually. So the moon in Aquarius will interact with Jupiter and Uranus. Just a little brief moment. Aquarius is the future, it's detached. And so we may be thinking of those future goals. But when it comes to Monday, the sun and Mercury are both in Scorpio. I think Mercury may move in a little bit before, so maybe Sunday night, but it just helps for the calendar purposes to say on Monday, the 23rd, the sun and Mercury are going to be moving into Scorpio. Okay, what does that mean? Well, the sun in Scorpio is when we have Halloween. That's right. The sun's always in Scorpio during Halloween. Scorpio again rules the occult, it rules the deep, the dark. It is fixed water, fixed emotion. It's the cauldron. And so when we have the sun moving into there and Mercury, and then don't forget Mars is also in Scorpio, we've got all of this energy in this very deep, dark place. Now, this happens a lot, especially lately during Scorpio season. How do I know I'm a Scorpio? My solar return charts have been crazy the last few years. So, Mercury always follows the sun closely anyway. So Mercury being in the same sign as the sun in Scorpio is not too shocking, but our minds and our energy source, the sun, are both in this place of darkness. And it's true. I mean, Scorpio season is the season when we really start to notice that we lose light. And we will be. In fact, I think the time changes Scorpio season maybe. Makes sense, right? So Scorpio is the boundary, right? Scorpio is the veil. Scorpio is that I'm going to turn over the rock and look underneath it and see what creepy crawlies are under there. That includes emotionally and in our lives. A lot of times, Scorpio and kind of horror get thrown into the same mix. And it's because Scorpio rules fear. Okay. So a lot of times when the sun, Mars, and Mercury are all in Scorpio, you may be confronting fears, having things come up that even themes around death and endings. That doesn't mean people are going to die around you or that you will have a major ending to something, but you could even be dealing with reverberations of a time you dealt with things of that nature. So the sun and Mercury in Scorpio are kind of self-explanatory after all of that. We're thinking that way, we're acting that way. Our actions will be scorpionic, maybe obsessive, maybe we are stubborn about it. We are locked down into what we think we know, or at least what we feel intuitively. That's actually better. It's a lot less brain, a lot more gut with Scorpio, okay? Now, the whole week after that is just the moon moving leading up to this lunar eclipse. Okay. So we've got the moon on Monday in Aquarius, Tuesday, the 24th, it moves into Pisces. That, actually, let me look and see exactly when that happens because the moon will hit Saturn and I want to maybe, it's not, that's overnight, at least for us in the central time, which is kind of nice. So the moon visits Saturn Monday night into Tuesday. Knowing that the moon's applying to Saturn this whole time on Monday and Tuesday may make it even a little more like feeling like there's obstacles. Saturn is the wall. Saturn's in Pisces, though, and Pisces is not necessarily so, it's not so much of a wall that you can jump over as much as it is like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Labyrinth when she's trying to find her way and the little blue worm is like, come on, have a cup of tea with the missus. And he's like, you got to go that way. And she's like, I don't see an entrance. And he says, just look again. And she kind of adjusts her eyes and sees the entrance through the wall. That's Saturn in Pisces. Okay. So just keep that in mind, especially as we go into that Monday and Tuesday. The sun in Scorpio and Mercury in Scorpio will make a nice trine, supportive trine to Saturn in Pisces. So this is intuition. And this is why it's not all Scorpio is not all bad after all the kind of scary things I said about it. Scorpio is that power. It is the ability to look and see through the wall. Okay. And so is Pisces. So that trine Monday and Tuesday, the 23rd and 24th should be nice. And then we've got the moon continuing through Pisces on Wednesday. Thursday, the moon's in Aries. This is Thursday morning. And, with the moon in Aries, we may be a little aware. This is the 26th, okay? And this is the day before Mars and Mercury oppose Jupiter. I might even say that it will be active on the 26th and 27th. Mars and Mercury are going to be opposite of Jupiter. Jupiter's in Taurus, Mercury and Mars are in Scorpio. So when the moon moves into Aries, here's why this matters. It's because the moon will be ruled by Mars. Okay. So these are the days I want you guys to kind of take a look at, because we've got a few things happening that are pretty big. First of all, moon in Aries Thursday, we're already going to get eclipse stuff coming in because the North Node's there. Aries is our desires. Aries is the warrior. And the full moon is in Taurus, the very next sign. But the North Node is in Aries. Let me just show you on the chart so you can kind of get a grasp of what I'm talking about. Okay, so I've got Thursday the 26th pulled up. Here is the sun in Scorpio, and it will be full at 5 degrees. But when you've got the North Node in Aries, that makes it a hybrid eclipse. So as the moon moves into Aries, it's already going to have eclipse flavor because it's already heading towards that North Node. Okay, and then it's ruled by Mars. What's Mars doing? Mars is opposite Jupiter, and it's exact on Friday the 23rd, okay, with the moon in Aries. The moon's being ruled by Mars. Mars is in Scorpio in its home. Opposite to Jupiter, what that is explosiveness, okay? Maybe less so explosiveness than Mars opposite Uranus, which we will deal with, but it's more about the crusader, okay? Jupiter is belief. Jupiter is truth. It is expansion. It expands everything. And it's in Taurus, our values, money, the economy, the food we eat. It's Earth. Jupiter's like, we have to get very clear on our values. What matters is, let's just, give examples like, what matters is the earth. Mars and Scorpio is like, what matters is oil, and we have to dig for it. And then you have a big clash. Okay. The other thing is, what matters is earth could be the Jupiter thing. And someone comes in to violate that. And then the Mars and Scorpio comes out and says, no, you're not going to do that. I will chain myself to a tree. Okay. That's Mars opposite Jupiter and Scorpio. It's very stubborn. I mean, Jupiter and Taurus. It's very stubborn. It's very big tempers. Jupiter will expand that. Jupiter almost exit on opposite. Okay. I want you guys to know this because moon's in Aries answering to Mars. Not only do we have Mars opposite Jupiter being expanded, but the moon's also egging on Mars at this time. So definitely have that in your heads as you go into the weekend. Be cautious. Don't overdo it. That's another thing, thinking you can skydive without your parachute or something like that. Don't do that. Just a good time to be cautious in my mind. Okay. So then that's the 27th, Mars and Mercury. And don't forget about the mind component of that. I almost did. Mercury is there in Scorpio opposing Jupiter as well. And they're both doing it at the same time. So this is a moment where someone might try to step over you and you just aren't having it, and you just can't help but let go exactly everything you think about the situation. Now think about your plans. This is always good because a lot of times these things I say can scare you. And I'll just use mine, for example. I'm just supposed to be practicing in songwriting on the 27th, right? What could go wrong? And that's actually a good question because it's not always wrong. It's not always bad. Mars is a malefic, traditionally brings some, naughtiness to the table. However, it can also bring passion and motivation. If you really want something, Mars opposite Jupiter will bring that out. And I really want to be practiced and have a good show on Saturday. And I really want to write some new songs. So maybe that's exactly what comes out is this explosiveness in a good way. Jupiter is good. So let's hope for that balance with everything going on in the world. It's a little nerve wracking. I'm not going to lie. And which is why I want to preach the cautiousness a little bit. Okay. So then that brings us to the 28th, the lunar eclipse in Taurus. Lunar eclipses, that's when there is a shadow thrown on the moon by the earth. The earth is coming in between the light of the sun reflecting off the moon. The moon is our emotions. So a solar eclipse is more about our identity and how we shine. And when that solar eclipse happens, it's a reset and it's very noticeable, generally speaking. And it definitely will be next year. But this lunar eclipse is more emotional. And the difference in this lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse is this lunar eclipse is closing out a chapter. For the last 18 months or so, we've had the North Node in Taurus. It's now in Aries. It moves backwards through the zodiac, just so you know. But this is a full moon in Taurus with the eclipse point in Aries. So it is closing out the chapter. What did this Taurus North Node bring for you? The reason it's pretty cool is because it's very close to Jupiter. It's applying to Jupiter, and Jupiter is a benefic. The reason it's pretty weird is because Mars is in Scorpio, opposite all of that with the sun. Okay. So this is a very mixed bag lunar eclipse. I think everyone's experiences are going to vary. Worth noting that the full moon is ruled by Venus in Virgo. Okay. So Venus is in Virgo during this eclipse. And it is pretty close to, it's applying to a trine to Uranus. Okay. And now you have this here. You see where I've put Venus trine Uranus. It's exact the 30th and 31st. But that's close enough that if the lunar eclipse, the full moon is ruled by Venus and that's coming, you can kind of say, okay, something's about to change. There is maybe an opportunity here for me somewhere, especially with regards to where Taurus is in your chart. So check your rising sign videos because I want to talk about that. Trines are supportive. Venus is love and money. It's in Virgo, which wants to get it right. Uranus is change and upheaval, and it's in Taurus, which is our comfort level, our values. So there is something about seeing a change we may need to make, or maybe a way to list out that problem, or a way to deal with what we want to change in our lives and organize it correctly. Okay. So I have the gamble because that's what it's like whenever the Venus is trine Uranus. Uranus is a gamble always. So I would keep my mind open, my eyes open. But this is also a chance to go, what have I accomplished in the Taurus area? What do I really want to accomplish? And how can I actually look at it through the Aries lens? Because now the North Node is in Aries. Okay. So, example time, I use me a lot. I'm a Cancer rising. Taurus is my 11th house, networking, goals, community. That's where the North Node was. That's where this full moon is going to be. But the North Node is now in my 10th house of career. So, I think I've done some of that networking goal formation, and now I need to channel it into actually doing it. And I think this lunar eclipse is a good time to look at those areas and how those work together. Okay. Now, the 30th and 31st, Venus trine Uranus, definitely keep your eyes open for opportunity. Interesting that it happens on Halloween. Lots of room for surprises. Okay, you guys, should be fun. All right, that takes us through October and the eclipses. Woo! So let's go ahead and go into November. All right, whoop, it's all sideways. November, my birthday. All right. So, how do I get rid of this bar? Well, I won't get rid of it at all. That's all right. I'm doing the best I can. Here we go, November. So what we've got is we're going into Wednesday, the 1st. The sun opposes Jupiter. Okay, I have extra spicy here because it kind of is. We already had Mars oppose Jupiter. That was last month, October. We're now in November, okay? Mars opposite Jupiter is probably just as explosive as Sun opposite Jupiter. The difference is Sun is more about how we shine. Mars is about how we act, how we do. So this is more about look at me, look at me. I need to be seen. I need to be heard, especially in Scorpio. I need to have that thing that I really want, extra spicy. Okay. Friday the 3rd, Venus opposes Neptune. That is rose colored glasses, generally speaking. Venus is in Virgo, which is wanting to get the details right. That is what lovely Venus is doing for us right now. But Neptune and Pisces is like, let's just go lay out on the lawn, man. Forget your list tonight. Okay, so that's Venus opposite Neptune. Just so you know. The other thing that happens around November 3rd and 4th is Mercury is opposite Uranus. Mercury is in Scorpio, the depths, the dark, the obsessive, the compulsive, and it is journeying through the occult on the river Styx. And it's opposite Uranus and Taurus, which is like, hey, you ain't gonna make it to the other side of that river if you don't take care of your stuff. Okay, that's maybe a nice way of looking at Uranus. Uranus is just like, here's an earthquake. Okay. Like that's kind of Uranus. So Mercury opposite Uranus can be looked at as maybe a piece of information we didn't expect to get. Maybe we ordered curtains in this specific blue and they look weird. That's kind of the Mercury opposite Uranus. But keep your mind open for ideas around that time. This is a time to like, this would be a great time to write songs if you're a songwriter, to paint if you're an artist. Anything that requires creativity this is a good time, and innovation. But also keep a watch and keep ready for curveballs. All right. So the other thing is Saturday, November 4th. We're in November. Saturn goes direct. Saturn has been sitting at 0 degrees of Pisces. It's like, is this delusion really what you want? Is this confusion really what you want? So Saturn's going to hopefully bring a little more structure to this area, a little more clarity to, maybe what we've been confused about as it moves forward, a way to build. I always give the example, the last time Saturn was in Pisces was 1993 through around, I think it dipped in even in 96. But you had a lot of domestic terror in the country. You had a lot of cool music. You had really inventive, yeah, Nintendo, I think, and things like that come out. The Magic School Bus. It is a mixed bag of imagination and delusion with Saturn and Pisces. So keep your feet grounded, Saturn direct. Let's see if we can actually make stuff happen once Saturn goes direct. I put November 5th, I put the moon in Leo because it's at its 3rd quarter square in between the full moon, which was the lunar eclipse, and the next new moon. So the 3rd quarter square is what's known as a crisis in consciousness. Okay. That just means getting used to whatever this moon phase is about. The moon in Leo, well, that's where Venus was retrograde. Leo is about our creativity, our inner child, our joy, our play. And it's linked in with, now it's squaring the sun in Scorpio. Okay. So it's not exactly linked into the signs of the eclipses right now. Not Libra, Aries. This is interacting with fixed signs. So expect a revisit to July with this quick moon 3rd quarter square. And it is Sunday the 5th. The other thing is, it's not just going to square the sun, it's going to square Mars. The moon's going to square Jupiter. It's going to square Uranus. So it is a little bit of a shakeup, even though it's just a simple moon transit. Nothing else is in Leo right now. It's touching sensitive points. So refer back to where Venus was retrograde for yourself in Leo and look that up and see where you may be in a focal point or a hard spot, or just a spot where you need to have a shift in consciousness. Okay, November 6th, Venus trine Pluto. This is sometimes it's a vying for power kind of a situation. Venus is in Virgo, though, which doesn't necessarily. Venus gets power from trining Pluto in Virgo by, writing a letter to the manager. Okay, that's a very Virgo trine. I can't help. Venus trine Pluto situation. Um, Mercury is also trine Neptune during this, and Mercury is in Scorpio, and it's trines are supportive. This is not bad. I'm giggling because I just wonder what the heck might come out of people's mouths on this day. Um, this is an opportunity. If you need to sell something, this is the time to sell it, because this is a time when people will just say just the right thing to make you believe this is exactly what needs to happen. So be aware of that with the trine to Neptune, that the rose colored glasses thing, and get taken easily with that kind of a thing. But this is also a situation in which you may feel like, yeah, I got this. I know how I'm going to work around any obstacles. I know how I'm going to move forward from here. Venus trine Pluto is also about our values and what is strong, what is working in our lives. And then Mercury and Scorpio trine Neptune and Pisces is how can I utilize that creativity to move myself forward. There also may be a moment where you see a boundary or see something that needs to change, because Mercury in Scorpio definitely is going to be focused on boundaries and what is right. Now, it may seem a little magical if people are having obsessive thoughts. This is the moment when that would be coming out, because Mercury's trine to Neptune. Okay, November 8th, Venus in Libra. Venus in Libra. It's its home sign. This is great, right? Well, the South Node is there. Don't forget. That's the eclipse point. So Venus in Libra is really nice. It's peace, it's love, it's joy, but it's going to visit the South Node as it moves on. You can see down here on November 29th, I've got Venus hits the South Node and a big trash can, okay? So while we have this beautiful balancing of the scales, eventually that's going to lead to what do I need to get rid of when Venus hits the South Node. So Venus in Libra, great time for, friends, great time for creative projects, great time for bringing peace into a situation, especially early in the month. Okay, November 10th, Mercury in Sagittarius squares Saturn. Okay, so Mercury moves out of Scorpio into Sagittarius. Now, this is a pack of wild horses. I have Mercury in Sagittarius. It is foot and mouth syndrome, let me tell you that much. Mercury is how you think, how you communicate, and Sagittarius is I know it all. Imagine why I'm an astrologer. Sagittarius is also belief, truth, it's travel, it's philosophy. So people wax poetic when Mercury is in Sagittarius, but it's square Saturn. Squares are tension. So Saturn in Pisces is like, don't get too carried away. We don't know the playing field yet. We're a little confused here. Okay. So just knowing that, double check your emails. Maybe try to avoid the foot and mouth syndrome. I'm going to tell myself that most of all. Okay. Saturday, the 11th, Mars opposes Uranus. I have this big explosive caution sign. And that's because Mars in Scorpio, I've already gone over that. It's power. It is obsessive control. It's going to go after what it wants to go after and not let go. It is, I want to experience the deepest, darkest. It's the fears that surface. And opposite Uranus, which is upheaval, and Taurus, which is our comfort zone, you can see how that might come out. So I myself, good astrologer example, I'm traveling. I'll be in the air, right? I don't avoid these things. I mean, like, you can't live your life like that. So if you look at astrology, and there are certain things I might avoid at certain times, like probably wouldn't go skateboarding, but being in an airplane, whatever, like knock on wood, let's hope that's, okay. So Mars opposite Uranus, be cautious, keep your eyes open, but also look out for, moments that may contribute to freedom, because Uranus is freedom. And I'm going to get some freedom in my life with this little trip and vacation that I'm going on. So that's really what it wants. Mars opposite Uranus wants freedom, wants to break the rules. And I do say be cautious just because that's the good thing to do. And if something does happen, or if you're like, ooh, it's neat to go, well, that was Mars opposite Uranus, right? And you may just be passing something and you're like, wow, did you see that car hit that bird? Mars opposite Uranus. Okay. Little things like that. A lot of times that's how these things will show up, not necessarily, but I would keep my surfboard at the ready in case the waves crash. Okay. Okay. November 13th, new moon in Scorpio opposite Uranus. I have old way, new way. And that's the truth. New moon in Scorpio is a chance to plant seeds. We've already had the South Node through Scorpio, cleaning it out. Now it's time to start something new. And Uranus has been changing us from the Taurus values part of ourself. New moon in Scorpio is like, let's come at this from a new place. Fixed water. Maybe we dredged up the swamp, got all the old stuff up, and we're saying, this is how I'm going to be empowered from here on out based on changes in my values. These are my boundaries from here on out. That's what the new moon in Scorpio is. But I would, expect things this is a dramatic new moon with the opposition to Uranus, with Mars opposing Uranus right there. It's dramatic. Mars is not exactly as capable, and that's because Mars is very close to the sun. It's called combust in astrology, where it's drowned out by the light of the sun. However, it's at home. And I think Mars and the sun are just working together at this point in time. In fact, Mars is just hidden. So there may be secrets, there may be covert things that happen. In fact, with this conflict abroad, well, all of the conflicts abroad, I'm not sure we know everything. And maybe this is when something's exposed. And then actually, that's a good segue into November 14th, 15th, and 16th, when Mercury and Sagittarius make an opportunistic sextile with Venus and Libra. Okay, Venus and Libra, we're looking at our relationships. We're looking at the things we want to receive in our lives, what makes us feel comfortable, peace, balance. Mercury is in Sagittarius, philosophy, truth, adventure. And those are in an opportunistic sextile. So maybe this is a chance if you are having relationship problems or need to balance something in your life, this is the time to talk about it. Our brains and our hearts are connected. They're moving in sync. It's really good. And that's the middle of the week. The 14th is my birthday, where that brain is. Wish me luck on that trip with Mars opposite Uranus, y'all. And then that brings us to the 17th. I'll be coming home on the 15th. I'm going to miss the Mars Cazimi. I'm going to be home for it. What I mean is I'm not going to be traveling for it, which I'm kind of happy I'll be home. November 17th, the Mars Cazimi is when Mars and the sun come together. It's known as in the heart of the sun. In Scorpio, Scorpio is so powerful, man. So that's why I got the wizard there. This is a moment when Mars is empowered with the light of the sun. There is a message here. And I think that it's going to bring up some of the themes over the last 18 months with the South Node in Scorpio. I definitely think it is a moment when we are empowered, and it really depends on where Scorpio is for you. Like for me, it's in my 5th house of creativity, inner child, children, and I have had children stuff go on with the South Node going through Scorpio. It's in my 5th house. Some school problems, some just new growing pains, and I've had to figure out different ways to approach that. And I think this Mars Cazimi may signal a point which we can start fresh from the Scorpio area of our charts. And I'm really excited. Okay. So then that brings us to November 20th. The moon is in Aquarius square Mars, just something to note because it's been working real heavy in Scorpio. And it can be a triggering sort of day. So that's why I put that. And then the 22nd, we've got the sun moving into Sagittarius. Yay! Square Saturn. Oh. Oh. Okay, sun in Sagittarius. Let's go. Saturn's like, yeah, but the signs are turned backwards. So I don't know which way to go. So we got to fix that first. Sun in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the all-knowing sign. Pisces, where Saturn is the ether. It's the, ideas from the beyond, right? So you're talking about the difference between the Bible and the Holy Spirit. And I like to give that difference for Sagittarius and Pisces because that's what's fighting each other. It's what you think you know, and then maybe what you're spiritually understanding or understanding in your consciousness. And they're in conflict. So there may be an obstacle around the 22nd. It's brief, but it's definitely going to inform you on what Saturn and Pisces is about for you. Then we got the same thing happening on Friday, the 24th, Mars and Sagittarius square Saturn. So same thing. Mars is like a pack of wild horses, but there's a wall to jump over. Okay. So, note that for late November, it could feel a little heavy. Saturn can be responsibility. Sagittarius is I think I know what I'm doing. And Saturn and Pisces is like, honey, you don't even know. Did you know that ghosts are real? Okay, that's that kind of a thing. Okay. And then that brings us to November 27th, the full moon in Gemini, which will be square Saturn as well. Saturn's just over there cock blocking everybody. um, it's okay though. Saturn in Pisces is a chance to bring our imaginations into reality. So this full moon in Gemini, let me actually just pull it up here for myself so I can just look at it because I maybe shouldn't have said the C word. I don't know. We'll see. I'm such a nerd. I have Mars and Virgo. Okay, so it's a full moon at 4 degrees. Okay, and Saturn will be at 0. So it's a little past Saturn, but still it's bringing up this T square. And the full moon in Gemini is like, wants to be social, wants to be data giving and receiving, talking, doing all that. It's kind of the trickster. Mercury's in Sagittarius in the opposite sign, where it's like, wait a minute, but I thought I knew everything. I don't need to learn anything. So then we look at Jupiter, which is ruling Mercury. Jupiter's in Taurus. And Jupiter is like, you need to, I think, refer to your values during this full moon in Gemini, which may not be super intuitive because it's ruled by Mercury. Mercury can be commerce, but when we look at it, we follow full moon in Gemini, Mercury in Sagittarius, Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, Jupiter in Taurus, ruled by Venus in Libra. It really becomes about Libra, even the full moon in Gemini. It becomes about this eclipse theme because it's being ruled ultimately. The final dispositor is Venus in Libra. So this definitely is about communication based on what you're learning, based on what you think you know, based on those spiritual things that are changing for you with Saturn and Pisces, to your relationships to see, is this workable? Is it not? I don't know. But either way, it's going to be about communication. Okay. What I do love is that Mercury in Sagittarius during this full moon, I'll show you, is trying to the North Node in Aries. So there is even that connection with the nodes with this full moon. And that's why I love following the rulers of the signs because it tells you so much more information. Full moon in Gemini, you might think it's about one thing, but then you follow the rulers all the way down. You realize, oh, it's really about relationships and communication. And how do I get from this place to the place where I feel like I'm in my authentic truth and I'm being independent? I'm doing what I need to do for myself. First, I have to communicate in order to get this relationship right. That's cool. There's the full moon right there, just pointing it out. Ruled by, Gemini is ruled by Mercury. In Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter. In Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. Over here, very close to the South Node, see? And then there's Mercury trine the North Node. Okay, I just wanted to show you guys. Just wanted to prove that I knew what I was talking about. Okay. New share. Let's go back to the calendar because we're almost done. Oh, it's not going to let me. I'm just drawing. Here we go. All right, last but not least, and you saw it because I brought it up, the full moon in Gemini square Saturn. That's going to test us with resolve. I think that, and then also trying to find different ways of communicating and different ways of doing things. And we may be held back a little by our own delusion. So be referring to what's important to you in those relationships, and be referring to uh, the information you're hearing, not just the information you're transmitting. And then on the 29th, Venus hits the South Node. And this is why the eclipses aren't over, because Venus still has to hit the South Node. And that is what is the ruler of the South Node. So this is a time when we really take out the trash, basically. Um, a time when we know exactly what is and isn't going to work. Now, I'm not saying that that day, but I'm saying you're going to get a piece of information about how you need to take the trash out. All right, y'all. I got these calendars on my Instagram. I'm going to be back. We have a new moon in Sagittarius in November, in late no, I'm sorry, in December. My poor brain. Um, it'll be December 12th, and I'll be back before that to go over December and the new year. Because why not? We'll go over the December and the new year chart. And then I'm going to be back with a year overview so that we can look at 2024. I'm very, very excited about that. That's going to be nice. Keep your eyes peeled on my Instagram website, which I'm still in process of changing over. I've been working on a new website, doing all kinds of things. And if you want to check out my band, it's Love Rat on Spotify, loveratmusic.com, opposite of Hate Cat. Ecstaticastrology.com if you want to book a session with me. I'm going to go record those rising sign videos now, and I will catch you on the flip side. Mwah.